All right, welcome back to the Coach and the Kicker segment. We are about a third of the way through the college football season. It's going pretty fast. And Coach Leavitt's back with us for another week. Welcome back, Coach.
All right, it's good to be back. Let's go to work.
Yeah, I know. Can you believe we're already at we're already 4 games in for a lot of places. We're getting there. We're getting to the midpoint. We're getting really to see which team's really getting to be a good team and which teams are kind of floundering. And that narrative is just as good in the state of Florida as it is all over the country. We had we have Miami, who was off to a great start, and they've lost a couple. Florida's up and down. Florida State's starting to rise a little bit. USF's going up and down a little bit. So we're gonna knock around go all around the state of Florida with you, Coach. First thing I want to ask you. I know you were at the Bucks game yesterday. As a fan, you were at the Bucks Green Bay. How is it for you to be a fan at a game like that?
Different. I bought tickets up in the Nest, what do they call that news section, and
okay.
I bought it for my girls, and so it's a little different being out there and seeing it like that. But the people all around us were great. It was fun atmosphere. They had 69,000.
Yeah.
It's the largest crowd ever because they have all that new seating. And I can remember back in our West Virginia game when I was in South Florida, we would have filled that whole thing.
Right.
As we had all those seats because it was such a big game. I was kind of thinking about that. I was looking at the 69,000 thinking, my gosh, I wonder if we could have gotten that many, back in the day. But it was great. It was fun because, as a coach, I'd faced Rodgers 4 times. We were fortunate. Jim Harbaugh was our head coach, and Vic Fangio, our D coordinator. We were 4-0 against Rodgers, but boy, he's a great quarterback. And we beat Green Bay all those times. And one of the games was so cold up in Green Bay. And then the one time we faced Brady, it was in New England, very cold, very rainy, and we were beating them really bad. And then Brady got hot in the second half, came all the way back to almost beat us. So we ended up winning that game too. So 5-0 against those quarterbacks.
Wow.
But I was coaching linebacker, so I can't say that I had a whole lot to do with it.
Hey, but you had some tremendous linebackers with Namara Bowman and Willis and those guys. You did a pretty good job with those guys.
Well, I didn't do much. I just hugged them there. You just try not to screw it up. But I thought Rodgers played extremely well. I mean, he's got such a quick release.
Yeah.
And Brady is Brady. He's so great. And it was a heck of a game. And defenses played pretty well. And a couple of big plays here and there. But I thought the fact that Bucks dropped the ball a few times, 3 fumbles, that really killed them, I thought. But those games always go down to the last quarter, and them driving all the way down there with a chance to tie it, was really pretty good.
I mean, when you're a coach in the stands, are you looking at every play from a defensive coordinator perspective? I mean, are you looking at the scheme and the formations and just in your mind breaking it all down of things, tendencies and things you'd be looking at?
Kind of both, because I was coaching last fall. I was over at SMU last fall.
Right.
I could see that, because I had kind of an end zone, which I like. I like having the end zone a lot more than being on a 50-yard line for me as a coach, because I love to see that part of it all. And you could, in the NFL, it's pretty close to the same things, from one team to another. You could tell what they're doing defensively. And so I do both. I kind of look at kind of what the call is, and then also just trying to watch the game as well.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, like I said, the great game, and it was a defensive game too, which you don't see a whole lot in the NFL these days. It was a very rough and tough defensive kind of game. I know a game you like to, you love, and deep down in your heart.
Yeah, I enjoy games. Yeah. Most games are going to be pretty close. At least the ones, the 4 years I was in the NFL, so many games came down to the last drive.
I saw a stat last night. Through the first 3 weeks of the NFL season, more times than ever in NFL history, there's been 18 games decided by 3 points or less in 3 weeks, the most in the history of the NFL through 3 weeks.
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of great players, good coaches, and that's just the way it is. It was fun for me. You really in the NFL, I'd rather be coaching on the sideline, certain college as well, but the atmosphere in the college is a little bit different. Just it's a different deal, depending on the games and where you're at, who's playing. So it's all a lot of fun. Just different. NFL and college is different.
That's right. That's right. All right. So we had some upsets around the country. Your beloved Kansas State had pulled a big one in Norman. That was a huge it's not huge, but a significant upset for sure. Some lot of close games. USC survived. Clemson survived in double overtime. Oregon, Notre Dame. So just talk about I know program well, Kansas State. It's a huge win for Kleiman at Kansas State.
A huge win. And Martinez played great. The quarterback at Nebraska, and I realized Kansas State so close with Brent Venables, and I know Brent. It'll be hard on Brent, for sure, because Brent played for me at Kansas State and was a GA there when we were building that program. Kansas State played great. I'm just telling you, I thought they played with incredible passion.
Yep.
They absolutely beat OU. At OU, I thought they just did a tremendous job coaching and playing. They played inspired, and OU played well too. I know Brent will bury him for, because he's so competitive. As I understand that it's OU's OU. But let me tell you something, that Big 12 is going to be interesting who ends up winning that one. You got, Baylor, Iowa State was a great game.
Yep.
And Texas Tech beats Texas in overtime. You've got a lot of close games, and I'm telling you, it's going to be really, Kansas, they're undefeated right now, and they're doing a great job. And Brian Borland, their D coordinator, played for me at Morningside College. How about that one? That was my first when I first got into coaching. And you're looking at, Oklahoma State is really strong. It's league right now, as a lot of them are. So, really, really interesting games. And, like you said, all around the country, really, really close games.
All right, let's go to the big upset in the state of Florida. The Miami Hurricanes get thumped by Middle Tennessee. The score wasn't even probably that close. They were down 3 touchdowns most of that game. The quarterback for Miami gets benched, Tyler Van Dyke. Just a lackluster performance in Miami. Your thoughts?
Well, exactly. It's embarrassing, let's just be honest.
Right.
Middle Tennessee, the head coach, Rick Stocksdale, played at Florida State. So
right.
He came out comments after that game. I'm sure all the Florida State Seminoles were all fired up about that. But Middle Tennessee was taking their starters off the field in the fourth quarter. Think about that. I get, Appalachian State won a big game. We saw Marshall go up and beat Notre Dame, and all games right down to the end. This was over. They were taking players off the field.
Right.
That shouldn't happen. We all know that. And I watched the game, and Middle Tennessee came out like they just was by far the better team. They took it to them from the beginning all the way through the whole game, and at Miami. And I don't know. That's you don't understand why those things happen. I don't think when we got beat. I know our first year we got beat in a couple games but that was our first year of football, 18 true freshmen. But I don't know if I ever went through something that Miami went through to get embarrassed like that. That was just, it wasn't very good.
How do you lose a tough game in A&M, and then you get just thumped at home by an inferior team? How do you as the head coach, how do you get the team back? Because at that point, today they got to be, they've got to be, I won't say in disarray, but they've got to be, that staff and those players have got to be really asking a lot of questions.
Well, surely they are. And I haven't been through exactly that, I guess. I don't know to get me like that. Got to pull your team together. You got to hope you have some great leaders. Your senior leadership's got to be there, and you better hope your coaching staff's really on board with you. And they got to do a great job in their position meetings. When you break it down, and you just got to keep moving forward. The most important thing, I think, is be honest with your team. And honest with your coaches. there's no smoke and mirrors. So we got our ass kicked, and we don't, and we'll continue to if we don't change.
Right.
So you go out there, you practice hard, like you have been. You make sure your coaches are in the locker room after practice. Make sure they don't go and shower themselves and get ready to go off film. The first thing they better do is get their butt in the locker room after practice and spend time in that locker room. And just make sure that that the players know that the coaches really do care. Everybody wants to win, and the only way you're going to do it is you got to work very hard at it, and hopefully your plan is good, and everybody's on board with it. You just got to keep moving forward, and get ready for the next game. You can't do anything about what just happened. You lost to Middle Tennessee, got embarrassed. You need to just stop and move forward and try not to let that carry too much on you, and then you got to do some great evaluation with your coaches on, who are guys that are going to fight, who are guys that are going to play hard all the way to the end and never, ever give up. And you better get those guys on the field, whoever it is, because that's the only chance you have of winning.
All right, let's go to Knoxville. Very entertaining game. The Gators and the Volunteers. Florida played really well for most of that game. Anthony Richardson played really well, quarterback. Tennessee ends up winning 38-33. Florida gets the ball at the end on a recovered onside kick. They got a chance there. Just your thoughts on, Anthony Richardson. He played really well, I thought. He threw the ball well. He was in command. We've talked about him up and down. Good game, bad game, good game, bad game. This was definitely a good game. You saw the potential that he potentially has as a high draft pick. But again, just talk about Florida. Napier was very aggressive at Tennessee, went for it a lot. He was very aggressive. Your thoughts on what you saw in Knoxville?
Well, first thing is how well Tennessee's done,
right,
and how their staff has done getting that thing going. Tennessee's it's a great job. I mean, a lot of those jobs, the SEC, but for them to be I think they're undefeated.
Yep.
And for them to what they did is impressive. I thought, Florida played much better. They played more inspired. They played with more focus. It was totally different than what they did against South Florida.
Right.
Against, it's just like they just thought they would win the game by just showing up, which you never can. It's hard to win a game. It's very hard. Your players got to understand that it's hard. You've got to learn to strain, and you got to strain through the whole game. And, I thought both teams played very hard, and Richardson did a lot better things than he did. Right. I'm not going to tell you that I think he's a great quarterback. I mean, if you're a great quarterback at moments you're up and down, then you're not. Now, he's a great athlete, and he has potential. But we all say that's the worst word there is. When
right.
Guys, potential, because it's almost a negative connotation on the guy. I don't know. You have to wait and watch him, like we all talk about. He hasn't played that many games, and I think it's still unknown if he's going to be a great quarterback or not. You just got to keep watching him through the year, and you take the whole body of knowledge at the end of the year, to see. But he's the best. I'm sure he's the best they've got right now, and they got to go with him and be positive with him and hope that he becomes a great quarterback. Always, and is very consistent and always making good decisions, good throws, so forth. And try to protect him. But I thought it was a great game. Florida could have won. And Tennessee though controlled a lot of it at times too. So I thought it was a game that I expected. I expected Tennessee to win after seeing what Florida did against South Florida, and I expected them to win in a close game. And certainly the home field helped them. And I thought Tennessee did a good job.
All right, up to Tallahassee, you got the Seminoles, a very professional-like performance. They beat a team they were better than. They beat them soundly. They beat them convincingly. I was very impressed with what I saw out of Norvell and company up in Tallahassee.
So was I. And I think you said it exactly right. Kind of like, it's a game they need to win. They should win at home, and they like a yeoman type just game that they just went out and beat them, and they had control of that game, throughout.
Yeah.
Again, it might, people say, well, Boston College is not as good this year, whatever. I'm telling you, it's hard to win a game. I don't care. I had a lot of friends that went up that game up at Florida State, and obviously we're very happy, and obviously happy in the state right now because Florida State looks like the best team in some ways in the state of Florida right now, just because their record, going to beat LSU and beating Louisville like they did, and getting that win, and beating Boston College. And now you start, like you said at the beginning of this program, you start to see, who's what. And the consistency that Florida State has is really the most important thing. They're not up and down. They've played pretty steady.
Right.
They've gotten good quarterback. They've got two good quarterbacks that can play. Their defense is, not great, but good. They're probably not the defenses of Mickey Andrews and those things, but they're still good and finding their way through it. So I was impressed.
They got the gauntlet coming up the next 3 weeks. They got Wake Forest this week. They got NC State and Clemson. So we're going to really know what Florida State is in the next 3 weeks. How do you, as a coach, how do you approach? I mean, I know it's a 1 week at a time. I get it, but this is the 3 week stretch. If you get through these 3 weeks, look out.
Yeah, you don't look at it as 3 weeks, just like you said. You got to look at Wake. Now, Wake, I watched that game in Clemson.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm in Wake, and when I States, we played Wake, and I was so impressed with what they've done with that program, and so hard. They give it to that running back, back in the backfield. He's just takes his time, and those big linemen get on people, and then they throw the RPOs off that. I'm telling you, and the quarterback for Wake they're good.
They are.
It's a good football team. They had Clemson beat.
Lose to Clemson in double overtime. If you didn't see it, fans, they go to double overtime with Clemson and lose in double overtime.
I don't know. I was impressed. And, so Florida State, this is a different offensive. It's different preparation now. It really is. So they got a heck of a game ahead of them. So we'll see. We'll keep seeing about Florida State, what they're all about. But you got to come ready a week, every week now. You look at Kansas State beating Oklahoma like we talked about. They lost to Tulane the week before.
Right.
I'm really impressed with Tulane's head coach, what he's done in his resume. But they lost to Tulane, and then they go beat OU at OU.
I know, right? It's crazy.
And then here Miami gets buried by Middle Tennessee. You just got different things out there, and
crazy.
And now look at Marshall has gotten beat by Bowling Green and Troy. Troy really beat him, and Troy had App State beat, except for the Hail Mary.
Right.
But my point is this: Marshall went into Notre Dame and beat them, and then they've lost to Bowling Green and they've lost to Troy. Two good football teams, but. The parity, like I said, it's hard to win a game. You better be ready to play. Better be ready to play every week, because it's here, South Florida. And I said this last week, South Florida outplayed Florida. They should have won the game.
Right.
I said they have to, but I also said last week, be careful about Louisville, because it's very hard to play at Louisville. And Louisville was ready to play, and South Florida wasn't.
Right. Like I said, back to yo-yo performance at South Florida. They play so well the week before and come out and just get blitzed in the first half at Louisville, 28-0. The game's over. That's probably the disheartening part if you're the coach, because you want to be a consistent performer, correct, Coach? You want your team to, again, you may not have the most talented team, but you want to perform at a consistent level most every week, correct?
Well, and I always say, don't look at win or lose a game. It's each play and playing great football. If you play great football, the wins will come. But you can't go up and down like that. And that's just they were not ready to play, and that's on the coaches and the players. They just weren't ready to play at Louisville. And even Louisville's a good football team,
right?
And even if South Florida, okay, but play well,
right?
And because you're looking at the season, you want to get better as the year goes. Now, we know that they were probably picked to beat Howard. Probably, BYU was disappointing. I thought South Florida played better in that game, but in Louisville. So, but you know what? your first 4 games has nothing to do with the conference race. And I know
Right.
that's what the head coach is telling the South Florida players, that it's all starting all over again. Let's focus on East Carolina. We have to beat them. We got them at home. East Carolina just got beat by Navy, and Navy hadn't won a game, but they won 23-20 against East Carolina. And it's hard to face Navy. I'm telling you, they're so different. And East Carolina's a good football team, and they have NC State beat. They lost 21-20.
Right.
So the loss, and they end up beating, I think, Old Dominion, who's not bad. I don't know if Old Dominion beat Virginia or played them tough. I forget, but this is a big game. This is a really big game for South Florida. They need to beat East Carolina, and if they play like they're capable of, they will
win the game.
Will. So now you got the Hurricane.
We're going to talk about it. Let's get into that. So Hurricanes coming to Florida here. It's going to affect the whole state of Florida this week. You got schools out in where we're at. Schools out. I don't know what the college situations. They're probably out of school in a lot of places too. Classes have probably been canceled in a lot of places. As a coach, I know you've been through hurricane weeks. How do you prepare knowing you maybe can't get on the field come Wednesday? Maybe you can't get on the field to practice. How does that affect your preparation when you may have to do more meeting stuff in mental stuff than you can physical stuff during the week?
No, it affects you. I went through three hurricanes. I was there, 13, 14 years, whatever it was. But you got to get ready to play. You're almost in a situation where you don't know if the game will be canceled or if it'll be moved, to a Monday or Sunday or whatever. And that can't happen always because of Raymond James Stadium. I don't know. You had to look at the Bucs schedule, all those kind of things. So there's a lot of variables involved. And this hurricane might hit on Wednesday, Thursday. So you're looking at you better have a heck of a practice today, because today's beautiful. And Sunday, and getting to the film, you better look ahead, knowing that you might not be practicing on Wednesday and Thursday because campus will probably be closed.
Right.
I mean, that did happen. You're right. You've got to work around it. You can't bring your players in when the campus is closed. Now, I believe we had school closed, but I believe one or two of the times we actually did have our players back and were able to watch film or do some walkthroughs and those kind of things. The mental preparation is going to be the most important part of it anyway, to really get to know the team that you're facing. But they ought to be able to have a really good practice today. And if you're a head coach, you're thinking it's not going to be a normal Monday. Let's try to get, even if you don't go on pads, because they might be beat up on a Louisville game.
Right.
Do a little bit more teamwork. Really make sure you do a little bit more. Prepare, know ahead of time that you might not get practice in on Wednesday and Thursday and Tuesday maybe, but you can get a good practice in today. Tuesday, you're going to go in the morning, so you'll get a good practice in on Tuesday morning. And then they go right to meetings because school will probably be closed, but they probably won't necessarily close it for the players yet. And then Tuesday night, you're good. Now you got to also remember, you got a lot of players from the state of Florida. You got to think about this.
Their families,
but they're going to go through and making sure the families are okay.
Right.
And as an athletic director and as a head coach, you got to be looking at this very, very close. You got to be in constant communication with East Carolina because you want to make sure that you are in your best, you have your best team out there. And if it's too many days, you may have to postpone the game. Or you may have to talk to East Carolina about that, because it's not just about the hurricane. A lot of these players are going to want to go home to their families,
right,
and help with sandbagging and all those kind of things. So you're talking about disruption of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then for them to come back just to play the game.
That's tough.
I think it's definitely 50 whether they'll play the game this Saturday. If it's a Saturday game.
Yeah,
I know they'll try to get in there.
I was going to say the other complication is the Bucs play at home Sunday night against Kansas City, so you can't play Sunday in Tampa because of the Bucs.
Right. Yeah. No, I think probably what'll happen is the home game. And I know I'm going to that game. I'm kind of excited about that one as well. But and I've got people even flying in for this game. So anyway, the not to get off track, but I think there's a real good chance that this game can be canceled with East Carolina, and then you also got to look at how many getting a crowd there to the game.
Right. That's the other part.
Opener. If I'm if I'm the head coach at South Florida, I'm gonna look at how many injuries I got too. A lot of guys banged up, I might kind of be pushing for safety even more than I normally would. I would anyway, and you have to, and it's sincere.
Yeah.
I mean, because you just don't know where the storm's going to go, and it doesn't look good right now. So, but you got to prepare your team because you don't know.
Right.
And so this can be interesting dynamics for
the state. The whole state, yeah.
For the whole state, you're right. I don't know you're right.
Because the Florida State's got a home game against Wake Forest Saturday.
Boy, there might be cancellations throughout the whole thing.
Right.
And then I know we're not supposed to look at this stuff, but TV, money, crowds, those things. But you darn well better ever not let those things take precedent over the safety of your families and your players. And
that's right.
The number one thing, and I'll never forget this. Doug Wooler came in to me we had a hurricane coming in, and he comes to my office and says, "Well, what should we do?" I go, "We better do whatever's best for the safety of all your athletes." And I was shocked that you even didn't know what to do. Then I said right away, forget everything. Soccer team, anything, and whatever sport's going on, make sure that if they need to get home, go home. Right. Whatever they need to do, take care of that. It's a one game.
Right.
I mean, I know it seems like life and death sometimes to us, but it's not. The families, the players, and what they've got to do, for them is most important. And you take everything off of that. That's all there is to it. It's not a hard decision.
No, no, for sure. And they'll figure out a way to make the game up later in the year down the road if it needs to be made up. So, all right, one more thing, I'll get you out of here. Player discipline. We had a kid from Georgia get arrested over the weekend. One of their starters got in trouble with some alcohol on campus, a DUI situation. As a coach, is that a situation where you have to rely on the university's policies strictly, or is that something where you may have some leeway in what kind of discipline you enforce for a kid, especially when it's a kid on your team that gets arrested for something? It wasn't a felony, but it was a drinking situation or whatever. How do you handle discipline situations when it comes to kids on your team and depending on the severity of the infraction?
I never waited for the university. That might take forever. If I knew that it was wrong, and I knew that the player violated team rules or university policies or whatever, anything like that, then they're not gonna play that game, and I'm going to sit back and decide what needs to be done. Because I've always said this: there's two things that you have to have in a program, and there's two things I talked about always: is love and discipline. And if you don't have them, you're not going to have much of a team, in my opinion. And I always told them like this: if you've got a son or a daughter, and they go out in the street when they're 2 or 3 years old, and you're going to go and you're going to hug them, but you're going to be stern, because you don't want them to get killed. And you love them, but you got to be stern with them. And, and I just use that analogy that the love and discipline, you got a young man who's got DUI. First of all, what in the heck is the safety of himself,
right?
Who that a family, all his friends. What if anybody else is in the car? If they're in the car, all of that. Right. What are you doing? And forget about football. Think about his life. Think about what's going to happen in his entire life, and think about those things. And that should be the most important thing. So you want to do something that's going to be abrupt to help him, to save his life, or just help him,
right,
and others. So that's why
Would you have open conversations? Would you have open conversations with the guys on the team, knowing they're going to go to fraternity parties, sorority parties, that there's going to be alcohol, and to some of these cases of, hey, if this happens, call me or call your position coach, or make sure you call an Uber or whatever it is. How do you? I mean, because those things are going to come up. They're in college. Those situations are going to come up that they got to make a decision, good or bad.
Well, first of all, I don't know when this happened. If it's the night before the game, I mean, well, first of all, I shouldn't do it anyway. We all know that. Right. Okay. And you're talking about me talking to the team. If it's the night before the game, I darn well lay down the law that you're not going out. You're not even going out at all. We kept them on campus, so we didn't have any money to go to hotels. We just kept them in the dorm rooms. But I always threatened them, saying that I'm going to drive to all the bars in Tampa and check on them. I told them I would, and I told them I'd have our staff out. But in Tampa, if those guys were out, a lot of times somebody called me, because I knew so many people. But right. I always talk to the team openly about it. And before the season even starts, you're going to have rules, and you do that with the team, so you have some power. Because the biggest thing is your teammates and the leadership. And if you don't have that, then those things, can happen. But, it happens. It happened with me, and I had to suspend guys, and but I wasn't going to play. I didn't have there was no gray area with those things. And if you violated those rules, then you weren't going to play. And if you violate too many of them, you weren't going to be on our team. You're going to be somewhere else, because that was just too important. We talk about love your teammates, and you care about each other and be accountable to each other. That's on and off the field. And if you really care about the team, you'll be accountable. What are you doing those things? Why even jeopardize you? Why is that important? I mean, it makes no sense to me. So, but you're right. You have young people that do probably not real smart things, so, but you talk to your team. You're open about the whole thing to everybody.
All right, Coach, we'll bunker down for the hurricane this week. Hopefully we won't have any issues here in Tampa. Hopefully you'll be able to stay. Everybody, see, in all seriousness, hopefully everybody doesn't get affected. I know the storm, we're not sure where the storm's going to go yet, all up and down in the state of Florida. So everybody obviously take care and be safe. And Coach, have a great week, and we will see you next week on the Coach and the Kicker segment.
All right. Thanks, Chase.
Enjoy your Kansas City Chiefs Sunday night.
All right.
Have a great week, Coach.
Okay.